welcome to another episode. We're at our first stop of the day. It's a rainy spring day. It's pretty nice to be out there. It should be some good fishing. It's low pressure right now. A lot of thick, low-hanging clouds. So we're gonna go out on this first pond and see if we can get anything to happen. And we're just gonna bump around and fish a few from there. We're not gonna fish long today, but hopefully, if the fish are biting, we can catch some fish along the way. So I'll bring you guys along. Stay tuned. Hope you enjoy the video. First fish of the day. Yeah, got that ChatterBait. Not a bad one. Real pale though. You can tell. I mean, this water's freezing. Kind of exciting that I get him on a reaction bait. Nice fish though. About 1.5 pounds. All right, so on that fish, I was reeling it off this point. It's a windy bank, and it's a bank that's getting the most wind out of the pond. Before this, I fished like the kind of the calmer area. The fish just weren't in, and that's been kind of the pattern for the past couple of days. Is the fish are on the windy banks and the windy, blown parts of the pond. So you know, nice fish. Popped it. I hit some grass, popped it off as you saw, and as soon as I popped that rod tip, that fish hammered it. So we're gonna go ahead and put him back. Hit it right off as soon as I popped it off the grass. Nice fish. Nice fish, about a 1.75 pound, 2 pounder. Smoked it as soon as I popped it off the grass. That seems to be what both fish triggered on so far, is when that chatterbait hits that grass, pop it, they fire on it. So nice fish, real pale fish here. Pretty healthy though. Same area, I haven't even moved, right off this wind blow point, so we're gonna go ahead and put it back. Okay everyone, so let me walk you guys through how I'm fishing this bait. So basically all I'm doing is, the fish seem to be on the wind-blown banks now. Pretty much now the whole pond's kind of getting hit by the wind. But all I'm doing is basically, it's kind of paralleling the banks, but I'm not fishing the bait really close to the banks because it doesn't seem like the fish are that shallow. But I am kind of still trying to parallel the banks, just out a little bit deeper. So generally most of the fish probably came anywhere from 10 to 15 feet off the bank, but I'm still trying to parallel it. Because if they're in that depth of water, if you parallel the bank by throwing right even with the bank but just out further, that you'll keep your bait in the strike zone longer, versus say they're in 10 to 15 feet, you cast out say 30 feet off the bank, your bait's only going to be in the strike zone when they're in 10 to 15 feet off the bank for a short period of time. But if you can cast, you know, parallel down the bank on the depth that they're out from the bank, reel it in most of the way back, your bait's in the strike zone a lot longer. So that seems to be a real big key. So what I'll do, cast out like I said, and now I'm basically just giving it a slow, steady retrieve. Now here and there I will pop it, and that's when a lot of fish are fired on it. But you don't want to pop it the whole way back, because you want to kind of give it a real steady, slow retrieve, and then every once in a while pop it, because generally sometimes that fish will be following it, and then when you pop it, that'll trigger them to eat it. So you know, I've had 2 bites where they've hit it and they just didn't get a good hold of it. But other than that, the fish have been hitting it really well. So like I said, slow, steady retrieve. Since it's pretty cold out, you know, depending on how active the fish are and what the fish tell you. Sometimes you want to burn it, sometimes you want to slow, steady. You know, sometimes I'll mix it up. You know, sometimes I'll even go slower than this if I have to. But it seems like, you know, just a medium to slow retrieve has been about what they want today. Another thing I'll do, I'll fan cast. That's how I found, you know, how far the fish were off the bank. I started real close to the bank because I didn't know. because this is my first time here. So I started up real close to the bank, maybe parallel to, a foot off the bank, 2 feet off the bank. And then I just slowly fan casted out like that. And most of my bites started coming, 10 to 15, like I said. And so I just stuck with that and started catching them. As far as the rod and line and reel I'm using the 7-foot medium heavy carbon-lite Bass Pro Shop rod. It's in a fast tip. Really like this rod for my chatterbaits and spinnerbaits. It has a softer tip than a general medium heavy fast. So really seems to help, especially when that fish eats it on a tight line. I'm using 17-pound fluorocarbon. Seems to be a good line. You can drop down to 15 if you're fishing a little bit deeper, if you're fishing clearer water. But 17 is, a good line for me, especially if I'm fishing in brush. And I'm using a 6-4-1 Abbey Garcia Revo SX. And I don't really want to go any higher than this, because if I do want to slow roll it, because chatterbaits are really good, early spring bait for me. And a lot of times I'm not even burning. A lot of times I'm just slow rolling it, or a medium retrieve. I like that 6-4-1. I even go down to a 5 sometimes. So just depending on how slow I want to roll it. Because generally I'm not burning a chatterbait. I mean, I will. But generally, for me, it's a good bait to get the early pre-spawners and late pre-spawners. And a lot of times I just like a slow medium retrieve. That's why I think it's really good, is because you can have it at slower speeds but still keep it up above that grass. Whereas like a rattle trap, you couldn't do that, because you have to, rattle traps sink pretty quick, so you have to kind of burn them if you're fishing shallow to keep them up above the grass. That's honestly why I think chatterbaits are really good spring bait for me. It's because the fish are still they're still sluggish, but you can still slow roll it and keep it above the grass, because it floats a lot higher than a rattle trap at the same speed. The only other bait that you could do this with would be a spinner bait, or a real shallow diving bait. There's a fish right there. Oh, this one feels good. Oh yeah, nice one right there. Good fish. Biggest one yet. There we go. Possibly. There we go. Yeah, look at that chunk right there. Talking about the bait, get slammed. Look at that. Pretty fish. That's a chunker right there, look at that. Thick, munched on that chatterbait. There's a fish. I thought he was small first, he'd run towards me. Oh yeah. There we go, another nice fish, chatterbait. Just hitting it hard. I thought I lost him at first, because as soon as I saw the hook, he ran towards me. Z-Man chatterbait, chartreuse white, swimming fluke junior. Bring that thing through grass, and these fish are jumping on it. Nice fish, about 1.25 pounds. Man, strong fish. This is a big one. There he is. I caught that first one just a little while ago, and then next cast in, had one hammer it. And then cast after, caught this one. What's up? I'd say the biggest or the second biggest of the day. Probably right at 2. Look at that. Gorgeous.